And that's what is gonna happen. Son of a bitch. Yes, the journey has ended. Took a week, but she is done. The only reason I felt confident pushing T17s like this is because, well, I had already done several maps very similar to this one, and more than half the mods on T17s just completely brick minions and are undoable. And that's kind of leads me ultimately into a couple feelings I have at the final version of gear. Now, before I go into a quick detail about what I ended up doing at the end, I will say the strength of this build was pretty much everything besides tier 17s. The interesting thing is that if you put Uber Maven in front of me, and I was about to do this, I was going to do a couple T17s, maybe farm a Uber Maven set or something, and then just do her. Because I felt so confident that this build would just obliterate Maven, Eater of Worlds if I play well, Searing Exarch we don't talk about because you don't do Searing Exarch with minion builds, Uber Cortex, you know, like I feel like this build would have been so comfortable. Uber Shaper maybe not because degens are pretty bad. And that's ultimately how this build died, right? Is just degen, and I could never really solve it. And I could never really solve the fizz damage taken. And that's just an ultimate weakness of kind of just Necromancer in general. And it's unfortunate, but there's a reason why I'm playing a champion now. It's because getting that overall defense high enough with getting good damage is just so difficult when you're talking about tier 17 levels of gameplay. But this build absolutely, I feel like, dumpsters everything besides T17s. Now, it's obviously, as you can see, I was killing bosses quickly. Like when I get to the boss, they were fairly quick and fairly straightforward. I never felt really in danger on the bosses, but the mobs and the journey getting to the boss on this was just not fun. And I didn't feel confident skipping all of the mobs because Flame Dash has a cooldown. And so it just kind of ended up in this weird clunky situation where getting to the boss was the hard part and then doing the bosses was the easy part. Now, ultimately, this rip, it depends. If we're going by today's prices, this is only like a 50 div rip. If we're going by the prices from when I built this character, it's more like an 80 div rip. But over here in POB, let's just kind of go over my final iteration of gear and a couple things that if you're a softcore player, then maybe you have access to that I just didn't. So as you can see right here, we're at about 21 million damage, and this is definitely, yes, you can always get more damage. This is with punishment. You can run the next best curse would probably be Assassin's Mark. So if you wanted more consistent damage, you can just go with Assassin's Mark. It's going to be overall less damage. The biggest reason I'm running punishment is because debilitated means they do 10% less damage after they hit you. So, you know, you still get a big damage increase once they hit half health, but ultimately, you know, I just wanted to be a little bit extra safe as much as I could at the very least. The only big glaring problem I have with T17s, like the biggest problem besides just like, you know, Necromancer kind of just not having a ton of, you know, fortify and stuff like that, is your AG. He struggles. I got him to a point when I 6-linked him and set him up and everything over here. He was fine. He was surviving most maps. He did eventually start, you know, continuing to die, and I didn't even get all my stuff quality up because I was kind of just broke at this point. I didn't have everything sold. But the only thing I was missing that maybe you could do is if you have a 21 and a level 4 in power, maybe this gets him over the hump. For me, he died the most against the Fortress boss. I did the Citadel boss, and then I did the Abomination. The Abomination does heavy chaos damage, so he didn't die in that one, but I wouldn't say I could farm that for him. And the Citadel boss, he kind of just didn't give a shit. So if you wanted to farm one, you know, maybe stay away from Fortress at least. But I didn't want to put a Kingmaker back on him because he just falls over. So I don't know, maybe somebody else has an idea to keep the AG alive. Besides that, I couldn't figure it out with just the 2 different setups I ran. But the AG, as you can see over here, like, he's just too good. This is the stats I had on him. It was just wearing a doppelganger guys and stuff. I've said it in previous videos if you don't know what the sets were. But ideally, my plan was to run a Kingmaker and, you know, have Fortify at 10 stacks. And then when I'm bossing, I was going to, you know, stand close and get extra tanky and stuff. But ultimately, it just didn't work out because if he dies, I can't rely on him to be there. So that kind of fell through, unfortunate. And that's kind of where the build ran into a wall. With the AG dying consistently, me not being able to have that reliable Fortify, which was my backup plan, I kind of just hit a wall. Gear wise, you know, Green Nightmare is really good. This is a tech right here, suppression, really good. You get your res, and this also doesn't remove the res, it gives you extra suppression. So, you know, if you read this, you know, cold resistance or elemental resistances in the radius will grant spell damage at 70% value, and this means the Green Nightmare, it gives like over 20% suppression if you just put it right here. And that's obviously crazy because you're wearing a 4th vow and a devouring diadem and stuff like that. So just really good, really solid overall. My Glorious Vanity ended up getting at least one useful node. The other one wasn't, so this is the big thing in Softcore. Obviously, I think armor and fizz damage is what you'll probably die to on this character if you were to die to something, besides, you know, something stupid like I did. This thing sucks. Like, it's just like move speed and stuff. So obviously, a better Glorious Vanity, a double armor Glorious Vanity. Some people I feel like are like, you can't find these Glorious Vantage. It's like, dude, you can find an armor and a Chaos Res 1 right here, and this would be really good. You get 1 Chaos Res Max and 1 in armor. I mean, I do play Softcore, and like in 2.5 weeks, I'm probably going to switch to Softcore, and I'm just going to be playing Softcore with a hardcore mentality. I call it a Nuzlocke. If you know what a Pokemon Nuzlocke is, it's very similar to that, where you just play it by Scout's Honor, and you know, you do that. So in Softcore, I know the prices of stuff, like get a fracture, you know what I mean? Like on all this gear, get fractures. That cuts the cost and stuff in half. I look at other builds and stuff, and people have like no fractures on the gear, and I'm like, wow, that's great. Unless you craft it with Necropolis, I'm not really sure why you didn't just bother getting a fracture. Like I bought these just for 2 div because they were already done, and I always do boots last. But other than that, please get a fracture. Necropolis definitely makes it so your bows are pretty insane. If you don't know how to craft bows, I did 1 attempt, it didn't go well, but I'd recommend that you go check out Spicy Sushi if you want to make a god tier bow. At least that's where I learned how to do it. So if I was going to do it again, I would just go off of his information. But the quiver, I think, is the big one. People, this is a very good quiver. I am proud of this quiver. However, it's fairly deterministic to make this quiver. I'll go ahead and open PoE Craft just to show you how to make it. All right, so real quick, I would recommend that you get crit multi, because crit multi is actually really valuable. Crit chance on your bow is really good because that increases the base crit strike chance. Crit multi on your quiver is actually really good, and the reason is because you want your suffixes to be free. This is the more or less cheapest way I know how to do it. Maybe there's another way, obviously, but this is how I did it. So you just go here, and we guarantee lightning, because even though we are doing triple elemental damage now, we're doing fire, cold, and lightning on the bow because it's just more damage. Lightning still ends up being the best, so I target lightning, and it's pretty simple here. We don't care about life, we just don't care about the prefixes at all. All you want is lightning damage to attacks, and we're just going to try to hit attack speed. I would recommend that you go for attack speed rather than crit chance, because you can craft crit strike chance with frenzy, and I never got one because I'm too lazy to do betrayal. And I had a friend who was doing it for me. He never found one in like an hour, and then I just did T17s and I died. So you're supposed to have crit strike chance, frenzy on your suffix on your quiver. I didn't get around to it, but do as I say, not as I do. And pretty much you just click this until we hit tier 1 attack speed. Okay, Jesus Christ. I'm just going to add attack speed. I'm not going to lie, I want to turn my fan on, and it's getting pretty hot right now, so I'm just going to hurry this up. I can't turn my fan on because it's going to be right in the mic, and then that's going to be terrible for you, so I'm just going to fast forward this. All right, let's say, you know, you finally rolled it and you hit tier 1 attack speed. I probably spent like 150 to hit tier 1 attack speed and to do this, but basically it's pretty straightforward. You just need to remove the fire res. Okay, first try, remove their fire res. And if you missed, then you just keep doing this over again until you finally remove the fire res. We don't care about any of the other prefixes. Trust me, it does not matter. All right, so from this point on, congratulations, you're done. The bow is done, and now it's just a money sink, but you will get life and you will get percent damage. You can also do this with hunter bows and things like that. This is nothing new, but it's a bit of an advanced thing, I guess you could say. All right, from this point on, this is exactly what I did. I annulled, and it cannot roll attack modifiers. So attack speed has attack, which means it cannot be removed as long as this is here, this can't be removed. Guess what? This also has an attack tag because that's how bows and quivers work. So these two are locked. You cannot remove these as long as you have this. This costs 1 div per attempt. And it's pretty simple. It's just RNG at this point. And there you go. We got unlucky. And so you would just, you gotta craft it back. All right. And there you go. And then you hit, and then you hit. Oh, got unlucky. And you just do this over and over again, and you're just kind of sinking your money into it until you get numbers you're happy with. If you're fine with 42 life, then stop here. And it's a money sink. I did this, got pretty lucky. I got it on my first attempt, I got high life. Obviously, that's what I cared about. And there you go. This is literally my quiver. This is how I did it. You can do a broad arrow or primal arrow quiver. Mathematically, they're about the same, so it doesn't really matter. There you go. Bow's done. Bow's done, quiver's done. For the helmet, obviously Devouring Diadem still. It's just too good to pass up, solves our mana, all these things. 4th vow. I did end up going with a 4th vow, and the reason is just I could not figure out how to get fizz damage reduction and elemental resist stuff at the same time. I looked at Laurel Weave Eternal Damnation. I looked at just dropping the 4th vow and just going for like a normal chest, maybe with just Internal Damnation, but it's more of a champion thing, to be honest. It's not really good on Necro. The ultimate solution, if I'm going to keep it a stack to really, really get defensive, quote unquote, is probably to just run Bone Offering. If you just go Bone Offering and you just take like Glancing Bows, you're basically just doing the Guardian tech where you're just like, all right, well, I'm wearing a bow, but I can still get to like 50% block, 50% spell block. That's a way to kind of get tankier, but Fourth Vow and Glorious Vanity kind of, the reason the Glorious Vanity obviously is because this sucks. This is a wheel that just is trash. So the Glorious Vanity on other builds is a negative. On this build, it's a huge positive. Unfortunately, you know, hardcore, I don't have access to like really anything. This is the only one with something, one node that was useful. So obviously you can get a much better one, but the Fourth Vow, you know, it just helps with regen, gives good armor, helps your elemental resistance, well, LE damage taken, and effective hit pull is cool and all, but you really, for me, I always want my LE hit to be around 65,000 plus, and I feel like I'm fairly okay. And then for me to, you know, really push Ubers, I want a 30k fizz hit, and unfortunately I just can't get it high enough on a necro. So the gloves, I needed dex badly because I had a thicket bow. I did not have a ivory bow, so unfortunate, I had to take a dex node. It sucks. Don't do what I do. Just, you know, be better. But yeah, dex guarantee with essence, suppression, nothing special here, and crafted life. The boots I just bought for 2 div because I realized the failed chaos orbs are changed now, so guaranteeing boots they used to be the easiest. Now they're kind of, I'm not really sure. So if I was to, you know, make these myself, I would have probably just got fractured. Honestly, I probably just got fractured suppression and then crafted life eventually and just got my reses. That's probably how I do it. I used to always go for fractured life, but I think just getting the fractured suppression would be easier. But if you were, you know, oh, they're too expensive, bro, what the fuck? T1 fractured life, or yeah, probably T1 fractured life. You want 3 suffixes to roll suppression, and then, you know, maybe you try to fix it or something down the road. But having fractured res, you only have 2 quote unquote rolls, right? But if you have fractured life and you roll, you can kind of, you know, hopefully roll for that suppression. But it just depends. It depends on how you try to craft them, essences, harvest, stuff like that. So do how you want to do it. I didn't even have cooldown on my boots because I don't know, just lazy. But you're supposed to have cooldown in your boots. The cooldown and action speed are fine, or you can also get chaos res instead of action speed, stuff like that if you're struggling on res. All right, there you go. That's how it actually supposed to look. You know, ignore the bleed. You're supposed to have cooldown here, so visually, you know, there you go. Like I said, it's getting hot. I really want to turn my fan on, but it's yeah. With Jinx Juju still is just mathematically just really good. I don't know, if you really wanted to go like crazy long term, a Strangle Grasp I guess is always like a candidate because you just get like, you know, 9 different annoyances and shit like that. But I felt like the Jinx Juju, the Spectres, I ended up just doing bears. Wild Beast Matrons, I've talked about them before. Their action speed slow is just really good and they don't die. So I actually dropped the Spectral Leader. So this is just no Spectral Race Spectre damage. This is just with 2 Beast Matrons. So if you somehow was able to get the Spectral Leader to survive, you could add him in here mathematically, but he always dies in T17, so I was like, all right, this is stupid. I'm not going to bother running him. The ring, this one, yeah, get a fracture, please. Just get fractures. Like, it's like, oh, fuck, it's super good the ring, brother. It's like, no, it's not. There's just no fractures for sale in hardcore trade, but I guarantee you can get like a tier 1 life fracture for less than a div, and then you just craft it, you know, with whatever you need. This was with this should be with prismatic essences, no? Oh yeah, this is with prismatic essences. I don't know why it's not here, but yeah, I put prismatic essences on this, and then I just rolled it with yellow harvest juice to get chaos res. I needed specifically 27. I got the numbers I wanted. Cool, I was happy with it. You can do endurance charges on suffix. I was planning on just doing call to arms enduring cry, but unfortunately the AG just died too much, so I had to 6-link him to try to keep him alive. Ideally, if I was going to, I was actually working on a set of rings to do it. But basically I was going to get my suffixes, you know, fixed my res and everything like that. And I was going to get minimum endurance charge on both rings. I just never got around to finishing. I actually have a T1 life fractured bone ring that I was working on, and I didn't finish it in time. But yeah, minimum endurance charges would be the like next step I was going to go for. But craft this with bound fossils. That's it, just bound fossils. It's not that rare to get all 3 mods. It just depends on if you're going to settle or not. Darkness and Thrones, just like 1 div. The jewels, same thing. Blue harvest juice and fractured jewels. I mean, I bought the bases for like 1 div, but it's not like, well, they're not 15 div jewels. They're 1 div fractures and then 1 div's worth of juice. So, you know, I get crafting sucks, but minion stuff is really not that hard to craft. It's pretty deterministic and it's been like researched and solved. So it's really just about doing it. Energized armor is to get armor. If I wanted to really get more armor, honestly, I needed to probably hit level 100. And then I could have did this to get reduced, you know, crit and then more armor. Never got around, you know, to level 100, so it is what it is. I would have probably went for that. Green Nightmare, pain in the ass. I tried to craft one or farm one myself. I spent like 10 div on the Chayulas. I gave up. I bought my Green Nightmare for 18 div total. really sucks. So that's kind of the big cost of this build right now. Same thing, the jewels are the same. I actually have another jewel. All of my jewels had T1 lightning plus % damage. I took it off because I was running a corrupting blood jewel, and then I don't know where the other jewel went, and it's on standard now. So yeah, basically the same jewel. And then my glorious vanity that sucked, and that's it. That's the end of the character. She's fun. I like her. If she doesn't get nerfed, I wouldn't be against League starting her next League. I just think, unfortunately, tier 17s ended up just being, I mean, you've seen other YouTube videos. If you've watched this, you know how it is right now. Tier 17s are just a bit of a mess. Pretty much everybody in hardcore is just like, I mean, there was like me and maybe like 6 people who were doing tier 17s without a Mage Blood. I mean, it is what it is. There's other builds you can do them with without Mage Bloods and stuff. I'm gonna do Splitting Steel Champ, get like 20 to 25 million damage, and I have some like regen tech. But ultimately T17s, like for example Katarina boss and stuff, you just need certain things. You need regen, like you need a constant stream of regen. Necromancer doesn't have that because bosses go invulnerable, right? They have these immune phases where you can't really hit them, and it's frustrating and it sucks. And that means that the minions aren't leeching, which means your regen is crap. And that's really annoying. And it happens so often in so many of these bosses in tier 17 maps. You just have to take damage, and there's no way for you to hit anything, and no way for your minions to hit anything, so you can't like leech, quote unquote. So you just have bad regen. So I feel like regen was a huge problem in all of these maps that I just couldn't really solve on a Necromancer. I did do like 6 tier 17s. It's not like I didn't do any. I did 3 different bosses, and I did, I think 3 or actually 4. I did 4 fortresses, 2 citadels, and then I did a abomination. And the abomination one it did too much chaos damage to the AG, so I didn't want to do that one. So, I mean, I did do quite a few T17s. Unfortunate situation, T17s were just a bit overtuned in my opinion. Is what it is. That's the end of the character. Hopefully it didn't suck, and I'm gonna go turn my fan on because holy crap, it's getting warm. Have a good one. Splitting Steel's next. I'll catch you later.